Because what you
Biden's
do
DOJ is
on
also
your show
prosecuting
every
Donald Trump
day
twice.
is you groom your audience for fascism, and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and sort of, laid out very nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened to
followers.
withhold arms.
You want to make sure.
Francesca, just on that point, what crime did Trump commit?
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly what they charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
I understand. What was the crime?
It is New.
Francesca,
I don't even like it. It is literally he just got convicted on 34 counts.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of like cooking the actual books.
What was the crime?
Okay, so according to this lady, Trump was impeached twice, and apparently that settles the argument. But wait, what was the actual crime he was convicted of? Financial crimes? White collar crimes? Okay, but what specifically, you dimwit? Because when she gets asked that simple question, suddenly she's bouncing from 34 counts to New York State law without actually explaining what the crime was. What a joke. Here we have this left-wing panelist losing it over Trump's criminal conviction, and they waste no time accusing his supporters of defending fascism while struggling to explain exactly what crime he was convicted of. But Michael Knowles pushes back with one simple question, and the exchange quickly falls apart. Take a look.
I do think there's a ridiculous double standard here that will come back and bite the Democrats. For the reasons that Mark Garagos said about historically, you've seen this coming a mile off, where both parties starting to ratchet up this concept of kind of going after each other's leaders in criminal courts. I mean, you've seen this normally in banana republics, not in the United States of America. And it really does worry me, as someone who loves America and loves Americans, what this is leading to. Because if all that happens in each term of office is one party trying to incarcerate the other's leader, I don't know where that leaves America in a few years' time.
Well, this will only come back to bite Democrats if they lose their grip on power, and obviously they don't think that they will. This is why President Biden the other day, when he was walking out of a press briefing, was asked, Mr. President, Donald Trump says that you are imprisoning him because he's your political rival. What do you say to that charge?
Well, I'll stop you there. We have the clip. Let's play the clip.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign?
I mean, you look like Jack Nicholson in The Shining at the end of that. But yeah, I mean, Michael, to pick up your point there, that's the clip you're referring to.
Yes, and it's pretty clear this is not a man who thinks that he has to be accountable to the American people. When you look at the federal charge against Trump, there was a poll that came out when that charge was brought that showed 62% of Americans think that it's primarily politically motivated. They just don't seem to care. And so this has been a ratcheting up, as we've all noted on the panel, of trends that have been built up for some years now. Some would say going back to Richard Nixon. But certainly in the early Trump campaign, the Democrats tried to stop him from being president by spying on him and cooking up fake intelligence, ironically enough, with Russia. That didn't work. Then they tried to throw him out by impeaching him twice. That didn't work. Then they tried to kick him out by rigging the election and changing all the voter rules, in some cases in contravention of state constitutions leading up to that election. That did get him out of office, and he did leave office, but then he didn't go away. He kept running again. So then they indicted him 4 times. Now they've convicted him. They're going to threaten to throw him in prison. Pretty soon they're going to threaten to send him to St. Helena. But this has absolutely nothing to do with the law. As was noted earlier, at most you're talking about a misdemeanor that would have already expired under the statute of limitations. I'm not even convinced that there was really a misdemeanor that Trump committed. So my fellow panelist here is celebrating that the rule of law has been vindicated and overturned 234 years of American legal tradition. I would challenge her to see if she could possibly articulate how and what crime Trump committed, because so far Alvin Bragg, the DA, has failed to do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so. And they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Absolutely right. Can anyone actually explain what crime Trump supposedly committed? I mean, if Alvin Bragg couldn't clearly explain it, the judge couldn't explain it. But apparently we're supposed to believe the conviction somehow proves everything was legitimate? Huh? What a joke. I mean, how exactly does overturning centuries of legal tradition become a victory for the rule of law? These lefties are an absolute joke.
Well, let's just ask quickly before I go to Kevin. Francesca, just on that point, what crime did Trump commit?
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly
Which
what
one,
they
though?
charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
No, I understand. What was the crime?
It is New.
Francesca,
I don't even like it. It is
Well, hang on, Mark,
he just got convicted on 34 counts.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of like cooking the actual books.
What was the crime?
You are not allowed. So you are not allowed to use your own financial, like your own money to pay off somebody, and then he logged it as something different. He logged it as just a regular payment, but he was actually paying off this star to keep quiet, which if he hadn't been running for president would not have mattered, but he was, and so it impacted campaign finance laws in New York. It's not a federal case, Michael. You know that. It's not even a federal case. Why do you think that it's not a DOJ case? It's not a Biden case. It's not a Merrick Garland thing. It's New York State law. So the idea that this is somehow politically motivated is all made up in your head, because what you
Biden's
do
DOJ is
on
also
your show
prosecuting
every
Donald
day
Trump twice.
is you groom your audience for fascism and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and sort of, laid out very like nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened to
followers.
withhold arms.
You want to make sure. You want to make
Francesca,
sure that when Trump is
accusing
reelected,
me of fascism.
he can get away.
That's a big,
he can
Francesca,
get away
you're
with
accusing
getting
me of
rid
fascism.
of the
That's a
Department of
big
Education.
charge. All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents right now. So if we're going to throw that accusation about it.
I was about to say one of the key tenets of fascism is you imprison your political opponents. Trump said, my revenge will be success. These are bad people. And he said, it's going to be success will be the best revenge. Do you think that's how this plays out?
It's the only way that it can play out, because as I think most of us on the panel have accepted, there is not going to be some fair legal conclusion to all of this. The only way that this plays out is if the political system in America is not wholly corrupt. It's only substantially corrupt. Biden smirks when he jokes about jailing his political opponents, but it's not wholly corrupt, and the American people can bring enough civil pressure to bear to push this guy back into the Oval Office. That is going to be the only way that this ends.
If he doesn't win the election, Michael will absolutely respect the results of
Well, you know what he'll say,
win,
Francesca?
correct?
And this time with good reason. He'll say, hey, for 2 months of the election year, when I should have been campaigning, I was being put through a criminal court trial over having sex with a porn star 20 years ago. And you know what? A lot more people will have empathy with him this time than when he falsely claimed he had the 2020 election stolen from him without any evidence. So unfortunately,
Absolutely. I mean, who among us
again,
hasn't...
the Democrat machine to shut Trump down has played right.
Piers Morgan is absolutely right here. Look, now we've gone from debating the conviction of accusing him of grooming people for fascism. But wait, isn't the argument supposed to be about the law? What a damn joke. And then here comes the irony. We're told fascism means imprisoning political opponents. But isn't it funny that he was the political opponent that was actually being criminally prosecuted? So what were we supposed to make of that, huh? How much longer will the media cry wolf?
What do you say to your critics who are saying that you're being light on the fascist message recently?
Oh, I tell my critics, shut up. You're a fascist. No, so I do appreciate that because I understand the desire, but like I'm very big on, and I know it's annoying, but specificity and nuance. And I think if you cry fascism at every administrative overreach, even the ones that are constitutionally okay, you will find yourself out of fascism bullets when the time really comes to remind people of, because you will, I think what the media has done over the last 10 years is cry wolf. to the point where they numbed everybody. It was an anesthetic. And it got to where, what was the thing they litigated throughout this campaign? He's a fascist, he's a terrible person. Democracy is on the ballot. Guess what lost? At the ballot. If you told us democracy is on the ballot, well, democracy got its ass kicked by a majority vote. So I'm very cautious about when to know, like, yeah, hopefully I won't do it the night after Kristallnacht. I'll get it like, but it's like, when do you put your dog down? Like, it's one of those things, like, you're not quite sure. But I do understand how annoying that is.
Jon Stewart is absolutely right. It seems like all the media does is cry wolf when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, this was the funniest part of the whole exchange. She gets asked a simple question about the case and suddenly, boom, we're talking about fascism. What? Seriously? That's your answer, huh? You can't explain the legal argument. Nope. So you just throw out the word fascist and hope everybody forgets what the original question was. What a joke. Look, if you're defending a criminal conviction, then defend the damn conviction. Explain it. Tell people exactly what happened and why the charges were legally justified. But instead, we get name calling and political accusations. And I'm supposed to believe that somehow answers the question? No, it doesn't. That's not an argument, you dimwit. That's a distraction. And when your response to a straightforward legal question is you're a fascist, maybe you're the one avoiding the damn question. And what drives me absolutely crazy is that she keeps saying financial crimes and white collar crimes. Okay, but what specifically? What was the actual offense? That's the question, you dimwit, and somehow that's too difficult to answer. Look, I'm not asking for a damn law school lecture. Not at all. I'm asking you to explain what Trump actually did that resulted in those convictions. If you're going to stand on television and defend the case, shouldn't you be able to explain the legal theory behind it? You can't just say he was convicted and then act like the conviction itself proves everything. It doesn't. That isn't an explanation. That's circular reasoning. You hate Trump. Fine. You think he deserves to be convicted. Fine. Then explain the case, you moron. But don't dodge the question and start throwing around accusations because somebody asked you to be specific. What a damn joke. And then we get the famous 34 count arguments. 34. Say it loud enough and apparently nobody is allowed to ask any questions. But hold on. What exactly were those 34 counts? Because repeating the number over and over doesn't explain a damn thing. The charges involved allegations about business records and how certain payments weren't recorded. And the prosecution argued that this conduct supported felony charges under New York law. So why not actually talk about the legal theory instead of treating 34 like some magical number? Look, you can think Trump is guilty. You can think he's innocent. But if you're going to have a serious conversation about the case, then let's actually discuss the charges, the evidence, and the law. Not just scream 34 counts and pretend the conversation is over. Ha! It's absolutely crazy. What a damn joke with some of these people. But look, what do you think? Was this a legitimate legal argument, or did they dodge the real question when the pressure was on? Did the 34 counts actually prove the case to you, or does the legal theory deserves more scrutiny? Drop your opinions in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.